Hello, thank you for tuning in. I'd like to start today by saying thank you to all our loyal listeners, and especially give a big shout out to Tracy, Stella, and Indra, who says that she tunes in all the way from Sri Lanka. We're really grateful for your company. It's people like you that make doing this worthwhile. And remember, if you want a shout out, please send us a message to hello@bookandlounge.com. Alternatively, you can leave us your review on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. For today's episode, I'm joined by Florence, Taiwo, and Yvonne to discuss Dreamcount, the long-awaited novel by Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche. Set during COVID in America, Nigeria, and Guinea, the novel follows the story of four women. Chiamaka, who is a travel writer, she's stuck at home during lockdown and is reflecting on her life, and in particular her past relationships and where things went wrong. Zikora is a high-flying lawyer but feels unfulfilled because she's yet to find a husband and the clock is ticking. Omologo, on the other hand, is a no-nonsense banker living in Abuja and does not want kids. Kadiatu has escaped Guinea for a better life in America and is happy with her job in a hotel in New York until an encounter with a diplomat turns her life upside down. Let's hear if Dreamcount was worth the 10-year wait. Nice to have you guys online. And thank you, special guest Florence, for joining us. Okay, so we're here to talk about Dreamcount by Chimamanda, and we have waited 10 years for this one. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys thought about the book. So I'll just start off by going around and asking your general impression of the book and whether or not it was worth the 10 years wait. I'll start with Yvonne because I know what Taiwo thinks already as we discuss this in the book club, and then we'll come to you, Florence.
Was it worth the 10-year wait? Short answer is no. I found it very frustrating. I found this book really, really frustrating. And whether it's because of the character that she started the book with, Chiamaka, I don't know. And what's annoying is that I love her writing. I love her writing, particularly when she's writing about scenes in Nigeria. I find it captivating. However, I found it very frustrating. I found the storyline quite weak. Is there a storyline? I don't know. So, yeah, I found it, I think that's the word, frustrating.
What can I say? When you ask that about the duration, the 10 years, I can tell that she had a lot to think about during the 10 years. And I wish she had broken it down into, I don't know, 4 different books. She had a lot going on. She lost both parents. She entered motherhood. You can tell that she had a lot on her mind. And because of the, I don't know, writer's block that she experienced, she knew she had to make a comeback. I liked the book. I'm actually one of the few people who liked the book. But I wish it was done in parts. It could have even been a series. I would have bought all 4 books in a series. It was just a lot in one book, but I still liked it.
I think I'm going to gently push back on comments made by Jackie J and by Florence, where Jackie J says, 10 years, we've been waiting for 10 years. I'm thinking, no, we've not. 10 years have passed between her last maybe major work and this particular thing. I think the marketing hype was this whole, a decade in the making and all the rest of it, which worked for me because it drew me in. But the thing is that I've not been waiting for 10 years. Whenever she writes, I will read whatever she writes because she's one of my favorite authors. I think it was you, Jackie J, that said that you'd seen an interview where she said that she doesn't accept that she had writer's block. She calls it something else by a different name. Hence, maybe that. And just generally life. Life happens. You produce whatever you produce. I'm not a creative, but I'm just assuming this is how it works. You produce whatever you produce whenever you produce it, if you produce it at all. It's just how well you produce it. I liked the book. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's for me most pleasurable, most engaging, and strongest work, but I liked it. Pushing back on Florence a little bit, where you said a comeback. She's never been away, as far as I'm concerned. One of her loyal diehard readers. She's never been away. Whether she produces a piece of work or whether she doesn't, she hasn't gone anywhere. She just, you know, do what you want to do when you want to do it, and don't allow people to put this unnecessary pressure, which is probably part of what may have added to the whole thing of writer's block.
I'd like to kind of challenge you on that because it's she herself says she was trying to write, but she couldn't. She wanted to write, she wanted to produce, but she couldn't. So it's not as if, she was just, sitting there saying, actually, I'm just going to chill for the next goodness knows how many years. Then I'll come back to writing when I feel like it. It wasn't like that. She wanted to write, she wanted to produce, but she just struggled to. And as Florence says, I think because she had a lot of things going
Okay,
on.
I rest my case. I rest my case.
Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't argued back. But coming back to what Florence, no, what Yvonne said about finding it frustrating. I felt exactly the same way. But the book provoked so much emotion in me, so much frustration. And I was just wondering, if a book does that to you, is that a sign of actually a good book and good writing? When I was reading it, I had so many different things going on in my head, and I was asking myself so many questions about the women in this book. And then I was just saying to myself, actually, you know what? I don't really like these women. Well, apart from Omologo, just wouldn't want to be friends with all of them. And then that just kind of got me thinking, actually, if a writer can write a book that gives you, makes you feel those strong emotions, is that not a sign of actually a well written book or a good book? So, however frustrating it was, I still think that she's done a good job in evoking those emotions. Taiwo, you were saying?
I think your frustration is about the nature of some of the characters, which means that
Yes.
you were invested, engaged, involved in these created characters, which is like you said, it's a sign, or it can be a sign of the writing being quite effective, a good book,
Hmm.
because you got involved emotionally. On the other hand, if it were poorly written, then you might be saying that I really didn't like the book for other reasons. But as for not liking the book or not liking the characters that have been drawn in the book, yeah, I agree with you. For me, it seems that she did a good job in terms of characterizing certain types of women, in terms of the four main protagonists. And like you, although not like many other people, I was really waiting to hear the voice of Omologo. She was my favorite character, and I kind of rushed to the others to get to her. And then when I got to her, I slowed down because I wanted to savor who she was. I mean, she's not maybe the most
Approachable.
what can I say? A character that has the most integrity. Maybe, maybe not. She's all grey. She's not black. She's not white. She's all grey. But I like the fact that she really engaged me.
So, Florence, then what did you like about it?
I liked the how she portrayed dating, especially dating as a black woman, in in a country where you're on the minority. That was something that I think is part of the conversation going on at the moment. So it was nice seeing her use all these real life stories that we hear about, and then turning them into fictionals men. It just showed that men, not all men, but mostly men, are problematic. And the dust, they say dust is universal. It's like everyone has it in different countries. So I liked that. It made it very contemporary, like it's supposed to be. I liked reading about, like, expanding my vocabulary. She used a lot of new words to me, which I wrote all down. And I thought I would use, I've never used them, but I wrote them all down. uh, I I also liked Omole. I think for me, she was also the character that I not resonate with, but actually enjoyed reading about. She showed me Lagos or Nigeria that I have never heard of. So that was nice. Zikora was for me a very weak character. I still have to remind myself what was going on in her life. So that was for me a bit of, uh, but I really enjoyed her writing. I mean, she writes beautifully. I could not put it down, like literally. I wanted to finish reading it. So yeah, she did. I think the writing was beautiful. The storyline was not so strong, but the writing made up for the storyline. Yeah.
You mentioned dating and the book being about the dating scene, and then especially black women and the men, the kind of men that they date. One of the criticism of the book is that the men, first of all, that the men are very one-dimensional, and then secondly, that the book is really about men. It focuses too much on men because these women are just continuously talking about men and the men in their lives. They're not really, they're talking about their lives in relation to men, not necessarily in relation to each other or anything else that's happening in their lives. And do you guys think that that's a fair criticism? I thought the men were very stereotypical and, yeah, to a certain extent, quite one dimensional. There were not really that many men in the book that had any, apart from Chuka perhaps, any redeeming qualities. And so, Taiwo, you being the man this evening, how did you find that your sex was represented in the book?
I didn't really have a problem with how my gender was represented because I felt it wasn't their story.
Okay.
So they're all bit characters. I mean, the characters that I enjoyed, Omologo was the main one. The other three women I kind of just put to one side. I also enjoyed Binta, and I enjoyed the taxi driver, Eze. But the thing is that with
Which one was the
Binta,
taxi
we
driver?
learnt a little bit more. Pardon?
Which one was the taxi driver? Who's taxi driver?
The taxi driver that she hired when she started to do the robbing to, give
Oh,
her,
to help her find women to give money to.
yeah, the way she drew the character. I mean, it was a very brief sketch of who this person was, but the way she drew him, when she said he was unsparing and spare, with a long neck and truthful bluntness that was perfect for the job. I felt that the way she described him as a person, it was very economical, but very kind of. It gave me an insight into who this man was and how he was able to be useful to her. Overhearing this exchange when she was trying to give money, and then starting her off by saying, "You said you want to help her business, but you didn't mention God. Business and God go together." So giving her an insight into the mindset of the trader, the female trader.
Hmm.
So I liked him. I liked Binta. I liked CEO. I like CEO for different reasons. But like I said, I mean, the men weren't the main characters. So, I mean, how much
But they
space have you
featured a
got? How
lot
many?
in the book. Do you not think men featured a lot?
I think men feature a lot because I think that's an unfair criticism because women do talk about men all the time. You know, they do. They do. We do. We do. But I thought women in their 20s and 30s talked a lot about men, but I thought once you got to your 40s and you've kind of been there, done there, had your time wasted and recovered, then you talk less about men. So that's why in a way I thought once you hit your 40s, you've seen it all basically. And so that's what I found surprising, particularly with Chiamaka, that her entire world revolves around men. And I think her writing is by the by. This job that she has as a travel writer is not her main focus. Her main focus is men, and she's in her 40s, and this is why I found her very tedious. I think that's the word. And that's why I found it very easy to put down that book right at the start because it started with her. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake, when are we actually going to get some characters? And occasionally, is it Omologo? She popped in. I was like, oh, there's someone with a backbone, you know. Uh, but yeah, that's where my frustration, I think, lies in that I don't think women in their 40s are so spend all their time talking about men. I think women in our 20s and 30s we do, and I think it's true.
Isn't she reflecting though? Because I thought that the characters are reflecting on their relationships from their 20s all the way to where they are now in their 40s. So I think you are right that we do talk a lot about,
Oh, perhaps you're right. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps you're
yeah,
right.
because she's doing her dream count. So she's going back from, and then
Yes,
recounting
yes,
all
yes,
her relationships. Not that she's,
yes.
for me, I don't feel that she matured in any way throughout. This is Chiamaka.
Mm. What I did find really interesting, though, was the themes that she was
Mhm.
touching on. Things around themes, particularly around fertility, around time, and the fact that you don't have all the time in the world. Yes, you have got all the time in the world to get married, but you may not have all the time in the world to have children. And these are issues that I think amongst women are not talked about enough. We talk about men a lot, but I think older women don't don't sit people down and say, if you want to have children, not everyone wants to have children. If you want to have children, there is a time limit. You'll get to a point where you cannot. So I liked that theme because it's not a theme that comes up often or discussed at all.
Yeah, so there was that, but there is also the other side of it where women are expected to be married and are forced, or at least their parents have very high expectations of them to settle down and get married, and that was also touched on. The one thing that I feel that perhaps, given the ages that they're at, is maybe yeah, she didn't touch upon menopause and how it affects women. So again, maybe they're too young, but that's also the other theme that as women we never really talk about. Nobody ever sits you down and talks to you about it. It kind of just happens, and then yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe if she touched on that, that would have been useful, because I mean we all know about the pressures of being society puts on you to get married, and what the expectations are. You go to school, you reach a certain age, you find first of all a man from your own tribe. Then if you as you're getting on in years, it changes to as long as he's a black man, and then it's as long as he's any man. It doesn't really matter. And then as my homologous case, just adopt a child.
When she in fact had adopted a
She,
child in the
Atasi.
young girl who lived in her house. Atasi, yes.
I wanted to jump in where you talked about menopause. And I think most societies, and especially African societies, we don't talk about menopause because we feel like a woman, the the essence of a woman after a certain age, which I think is childbearing age, you cease to exist
Mm.
somehow. You move to like this elder, an older generation. So you're just there to give advice. People don't actually, you kind of just disappear. Like those films where someone is, they're becoming invisible with time. I think that's just how the society treats women. So when you're young and of childbearing age, that's when like you encourage, okay, get married, have kids. And then the kids come ideally like before 40. Then after 40, everyone just moves on. The man moves on with a younger. It's just that's I don't know. That's just how the society works. So menopause, like who wants to listen to a woman complain about, oh, I'm hot all the time, or my libido is down. I don't know.
I'll,
Nobody
I'll
cares.
tell you a story, Florence. So,
Okay, okay.
my cousin and I who were talking about menopause and the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. We've got this patch, and we're sharing. And then my aunt, who is in her 70s, happened to be around, and we turned to her and we're like, why the hell did you never talk to us about this thing? Because honestly, I don't even know when my mother went into menopause and when she came out. It was never discussed. She never changed her behavior or anything. And she says, you don't discuss such things. You just get on with life. Why are you discussing this? I was like,
Exactly. And
comparing
for
notes because maybe my patch is not as good as my cousins in the case. She says these things are not discussed. That's just not acceptable. And she changed the subject really quickly.
yeah, I think for me that is what my interpretation could be, why the menopause story is not included here, because I don't know, it's just not part of dreams. It's just
You're kind of in heading towards the twilight of your life, so there's there's
yes.
not really much to look forward to.
Maybe unless you become a witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
The book is kind of structured in an interesting way. So it's basically the story of the four women told separately, but they're interconnected. So we start up with Chiamaka, and Chiamaka is the one that connects all of them. So Zikora is her friend, Omologo is her cousin, and Kadiatu is her housekeeper. And so we find out about, or we learn about all of them initially from Chiamaka, but then Chimamanda goes on then to write their own individual stories. How did you feel about that structure? Did you think that it worked? Did you enjoy it? Did it take away from your enjoyment? For me, the structure didn't bother me at all. But I think Florence, you mentioned earlier on that you'd have preferred if she'd written four separate books.
Yeah, I there's a part where I think when we are now with Omologo in Nigeria, and she's talking about just life in Nigeria, I think work and the society. Then she's talking about her uncle, and that's when I had to always keep on going back to check. I wish she'd given us a bit more background stories where the three girls interacted when they were younger, because now they are older, and Zikora, I think, doesn't
Shouldn't
like
have.
Omolego, or it's just, it was just,
Mhm.
there was no background to it. People, as a woman, I think it's, for me, from experience, it will be so difficult for me to maintain a relationship with two other women, and they don't get along, because then I would always just be the like the referee, and it will get exhausting. So I couldn't really see how Chiamaka maintained the relationship between her and the other two. And then I hated how Kadiatu was brought into. I didn't like it. I mean, Kadiatu's story was just, like my composition teacher would say, far-fetched, very far-fetched. It was just, it didn't belong in the book. It was just, I know she wanted to write something about it, because I think she wrote an essay before, but it was just, there was just no connection. They were just living two totally different lives, and then she was just forcing Kadiatu in there. I didn't like it.
Okay. Yvonne, what did you think of the structure?
I was surprised because when I started reading the book, I thought the book was about Chiamaka, and I thought she was the main character, and I thought she was going to be carrying us through the whole book. So I then there was a chapter, and I was like, oh, why Zikora? Because I thought it's just, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is what's happening. We now have a chapter for each character. In fairness, I loved Kadi. I loved her one the most. Not the end, because obviously the end is very predictable because it's based on a real life character. But I loved the writing, and I love Chimamanda's writing around anything that is firmly in Nigeria, because I think she comes alive when she's talking about characters that are situated in Nigeria, because she's very detailed, and it's exciting. Obviously, it wasn't particularly exciting because we knew what was going to happen to her, because we knew the storyline. But to your point about Omelogo, the fact that why didn't they like her? I think it was pretty obvious. I think she's got a sharp tongue, and therefore she would be viewed with suspicion, and you have to be on your guard when she's around, you know? Yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
don't know. It felt very disjointed for me.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't a natural flow that you'd see. And this is why these different sections made it very difficult. I'm like, okay, I'm starting again. Okay. And in many ways, I was thinking, are we going to see Chiamaka at the end? And she does feature at the end. That's supposed to tie the whole thing up. But it didn't really flow, like if you read Half a Yellow Sun, you are literally, I would read that I'd spend like 10 hours reading
Hmm.
without putting it down. This book I could put down many times actually, because it starts to get engaging, then it stops, and yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah, I agree with both of you in relation to Kadiatu's story. So the other three characters are from a very completely different background. And I found that she was kind of shoehorned in. And the other thing that I really didn't like about Kadiatu's character is that she goes through a hell lot of strife. I mean, like, you think that there are four women in this book. Why did all the bad things have to happen to one character?
But life is
So,
not fair. It can happen that way.
but come on, spread the pain. Was it that realistic that all of those things should happen to that one person? I didn't feel that it was realistic from all the things that she went through. And the other thing I found really frustrating about her as a character is that I don't feel that we hear very much of her voice. Her story, I always feel that is told
But there are
rather
people
than,
like that who have no opinion. Her sister Binta, if she had
Binta.
been alive, we would have loved her. But
Yeah.
it's true that some people, we because we're very opinionated, we walk around thinking that surely you must have something to say. Some people have nothing to say. I've come to realize.
Fair enough. That's
And
fair.
that's okay as well, isn't it? If you have nothing to say, that's okay as well. Because in saying nothing, you are saying something, I guess, in some ways.
Mm.
Yeah.
So which characters then? I mean, I think we're probably all going to say the same. Which characters did you enjoy reading the most?
Omologo.
Why?
I liked the way that she was she's very intelligent, and at the same time, she's not necessarily introspective. So, as I think it was Chia that was talking about the fact that, or no, maybe it was someone else. And it was is it Jide or the gay Nigerian guy who was saying something about just because you're so strong, don't think that everyone is so strong.
Yeah.
That kind of situation. And there was the expression that was used about her not wearing her intelligence lightly or something like that, which I felt was a very good expression. Omologo saw others so clearly and yet was blind to herself, how her certainties could intimidate, how her words scolded even if she didn't mean them to. And maybe she wore her brilliance a little too easily. I love the way that the author just described her in just those two sentences. She kind of got her spot on.
Hmm.
She's not necessarily self-aware, or maybe not as self-aware, not as self-critical or analytical, and also maybe lacking at times in compassion.
Do you think? I thought she was in the spectrum, but Omelago kind of
You
remind.
thought she was a what?
She was on the
That's fun.
spectrum.
Spectrum.
but
I never even considered that.
but she reminds me very much of me. I see a lot of me in Omelago because I have a habit of just saying things and not realizing what I've said and what impact it has on people. So as I was reading, I'm like, yeah, that is me. That's how I would say things. And then not realize that actually people are sensitive, but sometimes, like her, I just don't have patience. So as I was reading her, I was just like, I really identify with this woman.
Is it sensitivity or is it just compassion?
It's no, I think it's more sensitivity. It's and she's compassionate. Come on, you did not think she was compassionate?
I think she could
Well,
be.
I think I think she was certainly bold. She was outspoken. She had that blunt nature. But I think the morality issue was very complex because, yes, she was giving money to these women, but she was stealing that money. I mean, it is outright, in your face theft. She is a thief. you know. So,
She was Robin Hood.
yes, from taking from the rich to give to the poor, but also enriching herself, you know.
But well,
So,
no, Yvonne, I would like to take issue with
oh,
that. Right?
she was a thief. She was taking piles of money and stuffing them in her
And
bag.
giving
And
it
then later on,
away.
she decided, oh, I'm going to get a bigger bag now and just
And
stuffing it. That is
giving it
theft. Yes,
away.
we like the
But
character,
this
but she's a
this
thief.
this was money that was stolen in the first place, right? It was this money was belonged to those people anyway. So she was only giving back to the
Yeah, but she
people.
was the mastermind. The CEO had the title, but she was the mastermind. She was moving this money across the globe,
Uh-huh.
and she says it herself. You
But she was
know,
only the mastermind insofar as she saw that there was a fraudulent system and she helped them to enhance the fraudulence. That's all. She took it to another level. That's all. It's not that she created the system. Remember, she didn't create the system. She just improved the fraudulence of the system. That was all.
So Florence, what did you think
yeah.
of Omologo?
I I don't know. I liked her, but I didn't feel like her character was that deep. From all the stories, I liked Kadiatu's story before she arrived in the US. I really loved her story. It was strong. Yeah, if push comes to pull, I would probably pick out Chiamaka. Chiamaka's life. I was actually jealous of her life. I was just like, I should have these kind of problems, where I can travel and write about travel without. I don't have money issues. I can date, like the freedom that money affords you. I loved that, and I think African literature doesn't showcase that a lot. So I enjoyed that. I Even the men, I was just like, this is the reality of dating. So it's fine. You meet some good ones like Chuka, and the Kenyan man was also good. Thank God. Um, uh,
Are you Kenyan?
The
yeah,
professor
I'm Kenyan. The one, I think she met him on a
On a
plane, on a flight.
plane.
on a
On a
Yeah,
flight.
plane.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Chimamanda was friends with a Kenyan
Um,
writer,
Yeah, yeah.
Binyavanga.
Binyamanga.
So I
Yeah.
think she was kind of channeling a bit of him in that Kenyan man. So I was just, when I was reading Chiamaka, I knew whatever man she met, she was going to be fine because money was not a problem. So I enjoyed the freedom with which she moved through life. And I wish that for more Black women. I wish that for me. Yeah. That's why I
No, but I have to say, I have to strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. I found Chiamaka the most tedious, annoying, and particularly given that she's got all those resources, wasted resources on men who were not worthy of her time. And I think, and she was really such a dreamer because if you think of, the Nigerian guy who was the only decent guy that she probably dated,
Chuka.
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 I mean, what was the reason? Why did she not want to be with him?
He was too nice.
He was vanilla.
He was
was
too boring.
boring. It was boring.
That is what teenage that is. I mean, unless you're like 12 or 13, I can't. Honestly, she had no depth. She had no depth. That Chiamaka.
But she
And
was
this
in
is
love with the
why,
notion of love, wasn't
this
she?
is
Though.
my greatest source of problems with this book. It's Chiamaka and all her men. How many men does she meet and date? I mean, if you think about it, it just didn't. The Swedish guy,
English guy?
it was relentless the number of men she met.
Hey, why are
but
you counting? Why are you counting the bodies?
but
I'm
but
counting because she was saying to Omologo that you stop and start with your men. Yet she has a string of them as well. You know what I mean?
but isn't it if Chiamaka was a man, would you have the same reaction to him
Well,
dating,
if he
trying to
dated
find
foolish,
the,
if he dated foolish women, I'd have a problem with that as well.
but
Because
you
foolish
cannot
women, this is
tell
what
if
you're
someone
dealing
is,
with.
but how will you tell if someone is foolish before dating them? You have to
No,
date.
by staying, she stayed too
It's
long.
true. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
flying the African American to wherever, and he treats you badly. You still invite him to fly somewhere else to treat you badly, and you continue.
And
But
and,
she
and,
was in
and,
love
and
with
the
him.
Why?
English
She
guy who
was in
was
love.
married.
She was
Why?
in,
An English guy was married, and she didn't
yeah,
want.
but he lied at the beginning. I mean,
Yeah, but then
for
he
me,
told her the truth, and she stayed.
Hoping that he would
but
leave his wife.
but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like this is how
Real life is that what you think?
yeah, or even this is me being on a pedestal and telling a younger woman how they should date, but this is me who is doesn't have that kind of financial backing, so I'm worried, like, okay, if you do this, you would, why are you spending money on Danielle? But she has the money. Dan, the money is there. I'm just
You
like,
mean her father has
you,
the money?
Yeah.
yeah, but it's family money. I'm just like, use it for the rest of us, use it.
But I
Yeah.
think this is one thing that Isaac was saying when we asked this in the book. He was asking actually how realistic characters like Chiamaka are, because he didn't think, or not even just Chiamaka, the women in this book, how realistic are they? And actually, even Annette, who is a woman, was saying that she doesn't know any women like this. But I do. I really do. So Chiamaka is a very realistic character. There are people out there like that who,
Who
yes,
perpetually
choose bad men.
date men who
Yes,
treat them badly. You don't
yeah,
land with
yeah,
continuously.
yeah. There are women out there like that. I know women out there like that who continuously just do the same thing over and over and then complain about how their relationships are not working out, or they're in love with the notion of being in love, like Chiamaka is. She wants to be
Yes,
truly
I think
known.
that's, yeah.
So one thing I do rate this book for is for portraying a very realistic life of women. At least I think it's very realistic portrayal of the different types of women that are out there.
I mean, I can see how in your 20s and 30s you're duped by men because that's what they do. But I think you soon wake up.
Some women
You
don't.
Believe you
do.
though,
You
because
must.
when
You
you when
must.
you're
You
saying
grow.
when you're saying you're
You
duped by men, you're giving men too much power. Maybe you're duping yourself. I mean, where Chia says, "My love for him was a thing bled dry of reason," she summed up the notion that she's in love with love. And even when Chuka loves her, she can't recognize what love is because she's so bound up with this notion of the big emotion that sweeps me away. But who can sustain such an emotion? I mean, if love is a verb, it's not about emotion, it's about commitment, it's about the boring day to day regular things. It's about sustaining the long haul, not this kind of great, poetic fireworks that Chia was
Mhm.
after.
And I think Amanda portrays that well in the this illusion or this illusion that some women have of finding love or the romantic view of love. I think that's one of the things that she's actually trying to say with this book is that sometimes as women we delude ourselves and we lie to ourselves.
mm. And I think perhaps just picking up on what you were saying, Tawa, is that perhaps we're all looking at this with our own lens and our own life. you know, and where we're at now, you know. Obviously, I've kind of been through the mill, and you know, and when and when you get married, you realize that just it is a verb. It is doing. It is practical. It's day to day. So maybe I am looking at it with that lens of, come on, don't be so silly. This is not real life, but it's my lens and where I'm at now. Probably in
Which
my
other lens
20s
would you
and
use?
30s. Sorry.
Which other lens would you use but your own lens, your own
I'm saying
experiences?
if I cast my mind back to when I was in maybe my 20s, then perhaps I was also floating around like a butterfly, although never quite like Chiamaka, I don't think.
She's in a world of her own.
And I like the way that I like the way that she drew the character of Chia and the fact that Chia couldn't actually see. You know that situation of not seeing the wood for the trees. When she saw a decent man, okay, she recognized that he's decent, but at the same time, because of the decency, he's boring, he's vanilla, he's not what she expected love to present
Mm.
itself as. And so therefore she didn't recognize it. But in retrospect, she's then casting her mind back when she's counting the body. She's thinking, maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe I could have made it work. When she's looking at the photographs of his marriage, maybe
Yes.
she's looking back and thinking, maybe that was what love looked like. Maybe just not in the package that I envisaged. Because love isn't just one thing, is it?
I was really pleased that there was that bit about her now looking at wedding photographs of Chuka and reflecting. And I was thinking, oh, maybe there's a realization that perhaps that was love.
Zikora was one of those characters that I forgot about. So, and I feel that, yeah, what was the purpose of her? Why was she in the book? Other than showing just the resentment, again, that can develop if you're treated badly by men, or at least some women can develop towards men when they're treated badly. But other than that, I just really didn't see the point of Zikora. I wonder how you guys felt about Zikora.
I'm with you there, Jackie. I don't know. Apart from, I think the mother-daughter relationship, she used that to bring that to the front, and also I think maternal health, which is especially for Black women living in the U.S., and also I think childbirth.
Yeah.
Oh, that was harrowing, the childbirth part. Yeah. So I also didn't really like, I have to, if I hadn't written that down, I wouldn't know what to say about Zikora, which is very strange because I remember reading, she had a book titled Zikora. It's an Amazon, you can only listen to it on Amazon. And it had, I can't even remember what it was, but it wasn't these minute, like this minute character. So I'm just disappointed that she took such a name, a title, which was a book, and just reduced it to someone so
Yeah.
insignificant, in my opinion.
Because
Yeah,
I
with
felt Zikora was a
Zikora.
bit player.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
Yvonne, you go on.
So I think the thing is with Zikora, her background is so limited. It's very difficult to understand what her past was, what her motivation was, because it just seems like she's quite an angry sort of person. She's professionally successful, but I think her story, like Florence says, I think it really is around that,
Mm.
the fact that she became a mother, and then she was let down by Kwame. But her purpose, I don't get it. Other that she had a career, failed relationships, and now she's a mom, and she hated her mom and is starting to understand her mother because she herself is a mother. You know how sometimes they say, you know, people will so flippantly say, oh, you know, when you become a mom, then you'll understand and you'll connect with your own mother. I personally don't really believe in that because it seems that the minute she became a mom, her mother started opening up and they seemed to have a stronger connection. But other than that, I don't understand why she's there.
I thought Zikora was a vehicle in the same way that Cadi was a vehicle. I mean, Cadi was a vehicle to show that bad things can happen to people, and also the whole kind of, because she was the only non-Nigerian, wasn't she? she's not an urbanite. She's more of a village girl. And I liked the way, as Florence has said, I liked the way Caddy related to the village. Not a complacency, but just a satisfaction, a simplicity, and a kind of really finding her place in the village and being quite content with the way that the village worked and being in that kind of environment. I loved that about Caddy. But with Zikora, I felt that Zikora, she was a vehicle for this issue of, I don't know whether it was ghosting or the whole thing of a lack of communication or a communication that didn't really work between the man and the woman and the woman and the man, whereby what is not being said or not being fully understood and engaged with is so important that when the event then comes, everyone is then kind of surprised. It's like, I never said I wanted children. That's what Kwame is going to say. But at the same time, he never said that he didn't want children because they never had that kind of an in-depth conversation. At the same time, there was the whole issue of not Caddy, Zik getting very bitter, and I felt that that was a good vehicle in terms of her pride in not letting Kwame's people know that they have a grandson, and the consequences to her, not just financially but emotionally, socially, of that, and the fact that it's kind of like the pride and the ego is self-defeating because it's not just about her anymore. It's also about Chidera knowing that he has people that are African American, knowing that side of his inheritance, his family. And it's not just about her and her pain and the fact that she's maybe feeling that Kwame has ghosted her. Because I kept wanting to know, why was he so, you know, why did he just disappear in that way?
Yeah, well, it happens.
But
It
maybe that's what
happens that way
ghosting is.
sometimes,
Or maybe it's
where
just
you
the
you
whole
never
thing.
really know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you
it
never know.
happens.
You never know why.
Uh-huh.
So there's no resolution. And I wanted there to be a resolution, but in
Mhm.
real life, there isn't necessarily any resolution. It's just shit happens.
And another thing that I really liked about the book is the fact that it kind of shows Nigerian, specifically Nigerian society, in a completely different light, in a light that we don't normally see. So you see how the elite live. Yes, we know about the corruption, but I guess never really thought about the corruption and how it operates in detail. And with this, you actually get to see how it works and how it affects people. But also, you get to see the people that are wealthy, that have money. You don't read very much about that in any books about Africa or any books that are set in Africa. You normally read about the poverty and the struggle, whereas here we have women who are doing very well, women who are from well-to-do families who, I mean, like Chia just travels because, what she got to worry about? She has a house that's fully paid for. She needs something, her father just sends her money. You have a Omologo who's got her own house, who has a whole lot of money in her bank, who travels wherever she wants, whenever she wants. And that's the one thing actually we haven't kind of touched on when she goes to America to do her uh, her course and her experience in America. I think we'll come back to that in a moment. But talking about society in Nigeria, what did you guys think about that? And especially Omelogo's friends and her relationship with her friends.
I wanted to be one of her friends.
Uh huh.
Full stop. I wanted to be at that table and have Philippe bring whatever French cuisine that he had, dreamt up that day.
Uh huh. Anyone
Yeah.
else?
For me, I think if you're on social media, you get a glimpse of this lifestyle, because it just doesn't make sense that people go to events with outfits, like new outfits every time, and there's always a makeup artist. Like, people are well done, and they're just weddings after weddings after weddings. So it's not a sustainable lifestyle in the commoner's eyes. So it felt nice to actually read it, and I think Chimamanda, she she is of that class. I mean, she says that she's not from a working class family. She said that. So I think her friends or her her circle, that's the kind of life that they lead. So on top of it, if you're born in such opulence, and you're exposed to education in the Western world. So we see it, or we see it in these reality shows, which are staged, but we read it and it happens. I mean, yeah.
But that's not the predominant view that you normally have, especially within literature
Yeah.
and media. It's not the predominant view
Yes.
that you get.
No, it's not. I would mention there's a book by, she's called Abidare. The girl, I don't know, the girl who wrote
The louding
or
voice,
something.
is it
The the girl with the louding voice. Yeah, yeah. It's she also touches a bit on this lifestyle. Of course, the main character is from a really impoverished family, but when the people she interacts with are like this, so you kind of see. I was seeing the women that I see on social media or on these Nollywood films, and then I'm now reading them, and I'm thinking, okay, there has to be like people in real life doing this, because yeah, it's just showing up too much. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think that they're the elite in Nigeria, because the elite is that's a different level. I think they're firmly in the middle class, maybe some of them upper middle class, but it's all mainly middle class. I mean, there was I think it was Hawa, the one that was talking about going to, is it Selfridges or Harrods to do her shopping or groceries and stuff, or somewhere for the weekend and all that kind of stuff. That's when you're kind of getting to the higher elite level, that you have the funds. Although obviously her husband, I don't know what her husband is into, but obviously he's extremely wealthy. But also part of it is, as you were saying, Florence, it's curated, it's staged. So what you see on social media, I'd say three-quarters of them are not really there, but they put on a good show because they want to get the likes, they want to get the views, and it's aspirational. 90% of Nigerians are not living that lifestyle in a sustainable way, because I mean 200 million Nigerians, I mean the vast majority of us are not, we're not middle class and not upper middle class and certainly not elite. So it's just as people would say, it's a photo trick, but it's a nice photo trick, and it's nice that we talk about this photo trick as if it's a real thing, as they do in the Western world. I just liked the way she portrayed Abuja. I mean, I've never lived in Abuja. I've only been there once, but I liked the way she painted that picture of how society can be at certain levels, the kind of parties, the kind of socializing, and the middle class lifestyle of certain people, especially the women, when the men are away, and when the men are back, they're kind of falling back into a particular role, which is what is expected of them. But when the husband is away, which indicates that probably the husband is getting up to all kinds of mischief when he's away doing his thing, probably assuming that his wife is doing her own thing as well, but it's working for both of them.
Coming back to Omologo's experience in the US, what do you think Chimamanda is trying to say with that? Because she quits her job in the bank, goes to the to the US to study pornography. Which, I mean, imagine telling your parents you're going to you're going to study pornography. But anyway, and then she really doesn't have a very good experience. So, and in fact, I think she almost has a breakdown. Why do you think that is?
Do you think there's an element of expectation being too high for what she would find when she gets to the US? And the fact that the liberals can be worse than the conservatives, not just in the US, but here in Europe as well, where it's a liberal person that would say, "Oh yes, we employ, you know, LGBT people, we employ non-white people, we employ disabled people. In fact, we even employ women." But the reality is something else when you get into the organization. You know, most of these underrepresented minority groups are not at the higher echelons of the organization, and even if they are, they don't have a lot of power to make decisions.
Hmm.
So it's that I don't know what she's experienced in America. I don't know whether she lives more in America than in Nigeria
On
now. But
Chimamanda,
I guess in some way she was trying to expose. Pardon?
you mean Chimamanda?
Yes.
Okay.
But in some ways, I think she was trying to expose the hypocrisy of the liberal left.
Another thing that I found pointless. So funny enough, when I started reading this, and then I understood that she was a banker, she was very successful. But we find when we first meet her, she's in the US and she's doing this pornography course, and I thought, what? Why? Why?
Freedom,
Why?
Yvonne.
Why? Then when
Well, that comes later,
hang
Yvonne.
on, no, no, no. Then listen to this. Listen to this. So then when I started reading her story, I was saying, oh, I get it. What happened is she stole money. She needed to run away. I literally thought, she was going to get found out. Before then, of course, she resigned and all. But before I thought, my gosh, this woman has stolen money. She had to run away to America and do something. Because this is how pointless I found her. I just didn't see the point.
I think Chimamanda was using this as a device, as a critique on, as Taiwo said, on American society. How, and she does make I mean, this is Omologo speaking.
Then the book is more to do with politics than it is to do with a pure storytelling.
It's a social commentary. I read this as a social commentary.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other, though, does it? It can be both. Don't you think, Yvonne? It can be both.
it can, but it must be done well.
And you don't believe this was done well.
No, I don't believe it was done well.
I read this book more as a social commentary, really. And the other thing I must say that when I was reading this book, I had Chimamanda's voice in my head. So I was reading it with her voice in my ear. And these are the topics that she talks about. These are the kind of things that I would expect her to say. In fact, some of the things that the characters say is what I would expect her to say in a lecture or in an essay. So I saw the book more really as a social commentary. It's a book where, if we think about it, nothing really happens, but there are a lot of issues that come out of the book.
And maybe that's where my disappointment has come from.
Mm.
Because I was expecting a novel that would have great characters, and I'd be swept away, and I'd be so invested in the characters. I would not want to let them go, but I was very quick to discard them. So why then does Chimamanda say it's a novel? And she talks about how this is pure fiction. The only thing that she says, she talks about Kati. She says that she's the only one out of all the characters that she has sampled from real life.
But when you say sampled, Yvonne, she's only taken Caddy as the storyline.
Yeah, she said
She
Kati is
hasn't
the
taken the
yes.
Yeah, she hasn't taken Caddy's personality from real life. It's made up. It's just a
It's
storyline in terms of a big
inspired.
man
Yeah.
sexually assaulting a maid. That's all that she's taken, really.
I guess, because I always go back to Half a Yellow Sun, which is my literally my favorite book in the whole world. And I
And you're still asking where's Kainene?
no, and also I'm literally saying from the first sentence in that book she had me, and right through to the end I was gripped. And maybe that's where my disappointment is, and maybe it's not a bad book. Maybe I just have had other expectations.
Yeah, but I also think that if this wasn't Chimamanda that we were talking about, I think half of those frustrations wouldn't be there because I think we have
Oh,
such high
definitely.
expectations of her that everything that we
Yes.
read we expect to be perfect, and she's
Mm.
human.
True.
She set the bar high.
Yes, she did. It's true. You're right.
So Florence, you're saying,
I mean, I totally agree with what you said about it. How wanting to say something and then building the characters around it. Yeah, it didn't work for many people, and I think many people going in expecting half a yellow, like expecting like a like make me feel that way again. But
No, just give me a
I
great
think
storyline.
I think she has put herself in a she's boxed herself in a like a imperfection. So her next book will be
Will not be
probably
read.
better because
We will not read it.
Come on, Yvonne, you know you're going to pick it up.
Yvonne, what did you say?
Will not hear it.
Oh, don't
Sorry,
say that,
Florence.
Yvonne.
Florence was trying to find the right word. Say that her next book has to be, and I
No, no.
just typed out will not be read.
I mean, I don't know. I think maybe even the marketing of the book was a bit too on the side of characters. Like for women. For that was all they were talking about. Maybe the marketing team. I don't know. It's just peop, like those things of what I ordered versus what I received. That kind of. So
But it goes back to your expectations, Florence, really.
yes, yes, yes. So maybe Yvonne, you need to give her another order once more. Yeah.
I'm not a dreamer like Chiamaka.
Sorry?
What I see, I see. I said I'm not a dreamer like Chiamaka.
Uh-huh. One of the reviews that I read said that it's a book where she does too much telling and not enough showing. They felt that Chimamanda, her voice and her message, what she's trying to say, came out in the book a lot more than it should have. She should have showed us things rather than told us things. And I feel that that's a fair criticism because, as I said, as I was reading this, I could hear her voice and I could see this more really as a commentary on Nigerian society, on American society, on role of women within society, on feminism, on liberalism. All of those things for me were coming out.
But why does something have to happen? I mean, when you say happen, as in
A
what? Someone
plot, you
gets
have a
shot?
plot, beginning, middle, end kind of thing.
I tell you what, that make me laugh.
I mean, okay, things do happen, but you don't feel like the characters have moved on. I think that's a fairer description. Things do happen to the characters, but you don't feel like there's been any development or any growth. I don't know if you saw it differently, Taiwo.
Some of us are slow to learn. That's all I'll say.
It's not about being slow to learn. If you didn't see it that way, it's okay to say so. So, what did you guys think about For Men Only then?
Loved it.
What did you love about it?
I love the voice and the fact that this is not the first time that she's used the vehicle of a blog to preach or to critique relationships between men and women and men. So I found it an effective device for a character to have a blog, and also the fact that the voice of the character is continually saying you can do better. Maybe you're not all better than that, but you can do better. There's another way of looking at the relationship between you and women.
Hmm.
And remember, I'm on your side, man. She always
I like
ended.
that. I like that. Omologo's character just for me, I thought she was so funny. She just cracked me up. I found myself laughing, um, very much as I was reading her character.
Do you know what I felt? As we're talking, I'm just thinking about this book and thinking that, you're right about Chimamanda's own voice being much louder than in other books. In other books like Half a Yellow Sun, the characters emerged and they stood their ground. Because I mean, in the last 10 years, she has not written a book, but she has spoken a lot. And she's become, fairly political, and who's a woman, who's not a woman, all these, and she's been criticized a lot. So whether she's kept all these issues and decided to vent out through this book, and then, oh, but it's only fiction. No one can criticize me for this book because this is pure fiction. This has got nothing to do with all the stuff that I've been berated for. And this is
I disagree. I disagree. I think she's a strong enough public intellectual to hold her ground as she does when
she's
she
been
debates
battered in the public
in the public
in the
square. I
public
think she's able
square.
to hold her own
Yeah.
because she's a very good
Yeah,
orator
so why not
and
just write
she's a
pure
very clear
fiction and
thinker.
write beautiful stories and not why go in disguise?
It's a
and
fiction, Yvonne. It's a fiction.
but
Maybe it's not the
say,
fiction that you.
you say it's a political. What was the word, Jackie, that you mentioned?
I described it as a social commentary.
Social political commentary. I say so.
No, no, just a social commentary
Commentary.
for me.
It's all
Yeah.
the things that Chimamanda is interested in that we may or
Mhm.
may not be interested in. We love beautiful stories and characters. They are not here. This is not where they are. They're elsewhere. Maybe in her next book, if we have the patience, or because we love her, we might try to buy her next book. I'm extremely disappointed. I am. And why must she start with Chiamaka of all and Darnell? Come on.
Yvonne, the fact that she's got you this incense, right, shows that she
I'm
has.
incensed because I love the woman.
She's
I love
done
Chiamaka. I love Chimamanda.
Yvonne is such a tough crowd.
well. Yeah, yeah. So one thing we haven't discussed, COVID. The whole book is set during COVID and the pandemic, and being indoors and all of that. I thought that COVID was kind of like a character of its own in the book because it kind of impacted how they lived, it impacted what they did. And well, I mean, we all lived through it as well. It impacted our lives as well. But how do you feel that the experiences of the different women, how did they experience COVID? Because I thought their experiences was very different depending on where they were.
And also the twins as well.
I'm not so sure, but I think that is also the time where she lost her parents, or I think the dad died first. Yeah, and I remember she said that the mom died on
Yeah.
her dad's birthday, so it was really big, a big influence on her life. So I think she was, and with COVID, people got time to really sort out their feelings and their lives. So you see, yeah, so
Yeah.
she felt really
That's a,
dealing with grief and also being locked up and all that. So I think she really wanted it to be part of it. But also the way she showed the different lifestyle changes during in the different countries. It's something we saw because we also saw people having COVID parties and all that. I love that she showed the how just different people experience the COVID time, because some people became millionaires during COVID and some people lost everything. So it's just good to be reminded, because I think sometimes we actually forget, our brains make us forget that COVID happened, but reading this just reminds you that, wow, I baked banana bread for all those years, all those, yeah.
yeah, no, I think that she used COVID because I didn't see COVID as a third, another character. I just thought she needed to have that setting where, particularly, say, Chiamaka can reflect, look back to the past, look at all her past relationships without the usual sort of distractions of normal day to day life, because we all had to pause and have that solitude and that introspection. And I think COVID gave us those conditions to allow us to stop and reflect. And I thought that was just that's the reason why it was set during COVID time.
We've exhausted we've exhausted the book, and I think we can agree it's a bit like Marmite. You either like it or you don't like it. So I guess if we just go around and summarize and you really say what we think of it, rate it out of five, and also whether we would recommend it. And I'll start with you, Taiwo.
I'm going to give it a 3, a strong 3. I enjoyed it. I found some characters more enjoyable, as in Omologo, than the other two characters, Chiamaka and Zikora. Kadi, I like some aspects to her, but she's the one that kind of stuck out compared to the three Nigerian characters. It worked for me in terms that it did flow, although at times I did lose myself and I had to backtrack to kind of work out the relationship between A, B, and C. But it wasn't a major stumbling block, the fact that each character had their own kind of section, number of chapters, and then you go to another character and then another. Although I felt that Zikora was very much a bit player in terms of character development of the four main protagonists. But I found it a good read. I enjoyed it. Nowhere as near as Americana. Not her strongest work for me, but I'm definitely giving it a strong pass. And I will read anything she produces because she is the great. She is the great author.
Thank you. Yvonne?
What do I give it? 2.5. I think I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. As I said, I mean, I feel I feel emotionally distant from this book because books draw me in, and this didn't, because of all the frustrations I mentioned. I have to say, Kadi was one of the characters I probably loved the most as well. Besides the fact that she's resilient, but I liked that she's less complex. She's happy, and that people can just float around, you know. I mean, in the face of a lot of injustice, because she's had one problem after another, but just simple, simple, enjoying her life. And I liked all the stuff that was situated in Nigeria because it just made Abuja come alive, and even the village life. So that part I liked. But yeah, no, there really was no plot. And as you say, Jackie, I think it was a social commentary, which is not what I was after. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5.
I love the book. Let's first start. I would have given it a 3 if I didn't know Chimamanda. If I have a parasocial relationship with her, so I like her. I follow her, and she randomly appears on my timeline. So I gave it a 4, one extra star because she will do no wrong in my eyes. But book wise, if it wasn't by her, I would have given it a 3. If it was just any random author, so I am very biased. But I love the book because she just brought so many things. It's like when you're scrolling on your For You page on TikTok, especially if you follow Black women, and they talk about their dating experiences, and then you see a woman who has been married for like 40 years and is now divorcing the husband, and discovering what's like gaslighting, and I felt like that is what I was reading. We are just Black women are not a monolith. My life experience is not the next person's, and I just loved how she brought everything together. She even mentioned Thomas Sankara, who I really, really love. Just she had so much to write, and I'm just like, let her speak, let her speak. I will buy. Yeah, yeah. So 4 stars for me.
So, as an ex Chimamanda stalker, I was disappointed. I mean, I don't think Chimamanda will ever write another Half of a Yellow Sun. I didn't think Americana was anywhere near Half of a Yellow Sun. So I think my expectations were set when I read Half of a Yellow Sun, and I think I'm continuously going to be disappointed no matter what she comes out she comes out with next. Having said that, I thought the writing was beautiful. It's typical Chimamanda, the writing itself. I just don't feel that I don't feel like there was a story, and I think I did want a story like Yvonne. I get what she's trying to say. I get that these issues need to be talked about, these issues need to be discussed, and she's got us talking about them, which is a good thing. Maybe it's not something that should appear in a novel, I don't know. But the fact that for me, she got me engaged, she got me really frustrated with the characters and engaging with the characters and wanting to do things to the characters. I think for me, she kind of achieved her objective there by getting me engaged with the story. And I would have preferred it if she had taken one character and then based the whole narrative around that one character, and then we see the other people's lives through that one character. For me, I think that would have worked better. I enjoyed reading Omologo's story. I enjoyed learning about the life of the wealthy in Nigeria and the kind of things that they get up to. And yeah, I agree with some of the things that she said about America, although I did find some of it a bit too stereotypical. So overall, I think I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. And yeah, I would recommend it. It kept me engaged, but not her best. She never ever live up to Half of a Yellow Sun. Yeah, and I'm still right now asking where's Kanan and what happened to her. That's how good the book is. Still dream about the characters. So yeah.
I know, yeah. So do I.
So guys, thank you very much for a very lovely and interesting conversation, and I'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this or any of our other episodes, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to share. Goodbye.